Galactic aliens left their deadly Wolf and her cubs to die, until a human had second thoughts. The moon Ravax was once a quiet, green place. Tall trees covered its surface. Strange birds flew in the pink skies, and rivers of blue water ran across its rocky lands. But all that changed when the Joran came. The Joran were not human. They were tall, thin, and had 4 eyes. They came from a faraway galaxy and called themselves Builders of Worlds. They landed on Ravax with machines, towers, and bright lights. They wanted to change the moon into something they could live on, a new home for their kind. But something went wrong. Ravax did not like to be changed. The air turned thick and heavy. Storms came more often. The machines broke down. And then, the wild creatures of the moon began to fight back. The worst of these creatures was the Velkarevolf. She was not a normal animal. Her name was Shira, and she was a beast bred by the Joran themselves. They created her to be strong, fast, and deadly. She had sharp silver fur, glowing eyes, and long fangs that could break through armor. She was part of the Joran's plan to control nature on Ravax, but even they could not control her spirit. Shira had broken out once, hunting the very scientists who created her. After that, the Joran locked her in a high-tech cage far from the main colony. She was supposed to be studied and later destroyed, but before they could finish their work, the Joran left. The terraforming failed. The colony fell, the storms grew stronger, and the creatures grew more violent. The Joran decided Ravax was not worth the trouble. In just one night, they packed up everything and fled. They left behind the broken machines, broken buildings, and Shira. They thought she would not survive. She was hurt. She was alone. And worst of all, she had just given birth to 3 small cubs. For days, Shira lay in the mud of her cage. The metal walls around her were half broken. The energy field above her was weak, but still blocked escape. She growled at it, snapped at it, and scratched the ground below it with her claws. Her cubs cried beside her, cold and hungry. There was no food, no water, no light, except the faint red glow of the failing shield. But Shira did not give up. Each day, she dug. Bit by bit, she clawed the dirt under the fence. Her paws bled, but she kept digging. She licked her cubs, kept them warm, and pushed on. The smell of death was all around, but inside her burned the will to live. It took 9 days. On the 9th day, just as her strength was fading, the tunnel was complete. It was narrow and rough, but just wide enough. One by one, she pushed her cubs through. Then she crawled out herself. Rain hit her face. Wind blew her fur. She raised her head and let out a long, loud howl into the jungle. Shira was free, but freedom did not mean safety. She was deep in the wilds now. The jungle was full of other creatures, some hungry, some cruel. Food was hard to find. Water was dangerous to drink. Her cubs were too small to walk long, so she carried them in her mouth, one at a time, moving slowly through the trees. Every day was a battle. Yet Shira never stopped. She hunted what she could. Small birds, lizards, or sometimes just roots. She taught her cubs how to stay quiet, how to listen to the wind, how to hide when danger came. She stayed away from the ruined Joran buildings. Smoke still rose from some. Others looked like they might fall any moment. She knew the metal places were not safe. Weeks passed. Her cubs began to walk on their own. Their eyes opened wide. Their tiny howls echoed softly at night. But still, the danger never ended. Strange machines sometimes flew through the sky. Drones left behind by the Joran, still running, still searching. Shira learned to hide when she heard their buzzing. Once, one of them found her, and she had to fight it off with her teeth. She won, but not without a scar on her side, and so the deadly wolf the Joran had made the very creature they thought would die survived. Not just for herself, but for her cubs. She was no longer a weapon. She was a mother. And that made her stronger than any machine. But far away, high above, the moon, A new ship was coming. It was not ZH or N. It was human. Galactic aliens left their deadly wolf and her cubs to die until a human had second thoughts. Far above the jungle moon Ravax, a small silver ship moved slowly through space. Its name was Explorer 17, and it came from Earth. Inside the ship were 6 humans. They were part of a group called the Interplanetary Recon Group. Their job was to visit old alien colonies and check if anything was left behind, things like lost technology, rare materials, or dangerous creatures. Earth wanted to know what the Joran had left on Ravax. The team leader was Commander Lena, a smart and strict woman who followed rules carefully. She had seen many dangerous places and survived many hard missions. With her was a young scout named Milo. Milo was not like the others. He was quiet, kind, and curious. He didn't like war or killing. He had grown up on a small farm on Mars and liked animals more than machines. The other crew members teased him sometimes, calling him too soft, but Milo didn't care. He believed every life had value. When Explorer 17 entered Ravax's orbit, the scanner showed ruins below Joran buildings, broken machines, and signs of strong jungle growth. Commander Lena pointed to the map. We'll split up. Scan each zone. Report everything. No surprises. Milo nodded and took a small scout pod down to Zone 4, a quiet area filled with thick forest and one large broken research base. His pod landed gently on soft soil. Vines had grown over the remains of metal. Towers. Birds flew overhead. The air smelled wet and rich. Milo stepped out with his scanner, walking carefully through the green ruins. As he moved, he noticed something strange. A trail of small prints in the mud. They didn't match any animal in the Earth database. The size was small, like a fox or large cat, but the shape was different. 3 toes, deep claws. And there were more larger ones walking beside them. Milo followed the trail slowly. He turned off his radio so no one would hear his footsteps. After walking for 20 minutes, he saw a shape in the trees. He crouched down and waited. Out of the bushes came a large creature with glowing eyes. Milo's heart pounded. He didn't move. It was a Velcro wolf, just like the warning photos he had studied. Silver fur, long tail, sharp ears. It was beautiful and dangerous, but something surprised him. The creature was not attacking. She looked tired. Her fur was thin in places, and there were old cuts on her legs. She moved slowly, as if in pain. Behind her, 3 small cubs followed, playing in the grass and sniffing leaves. Milo watched with wide eyes. This was the deadly creature the Joran feared? She didn't look like a monster. She looked like a mother, trying to survive. The cubs began to wrestle each other, tumbling in the dirt. The big wolf Shira sat down and licked one of them gently. Her tail swayed back and forth. Milo's scanner beeped softly. He turned it off quickly and ducked lower in the grass. His orders were clear. Report all living Joran species. Dangerous creatures were to be dealt with, which usually meant destroyed. But Milo didn't lift his radio. Instead, he just watched. After a while, the wolf stood up, sniffed the air, and led her cubs back into the trees. Milo sat there for a long time thinking. Back on the ship, Commander Lena's voice came through the radio. Milo, report. What did you find? He hesitated. Just ruins, he said softly. Nothing moving. There was a pause. Copy that. Return to ship in 2 hours. Stay alert. Milo didn't move right away. He looked at the place where the wolf had disappeared. He thought about her cubs, their small feet in the mud, their soft eyes. He pulled out a small food pack from his bag and opened it. It had dried meat, fruit cubes, and water. He placed the pack gently under a tree near the prints and stepped back. Then he waited. After 10 minutes, the bushes moved. The wolf returned slowly, carefully. She sniffed the air. Her eyes met Milo's. He did not reach for his weapon. Shira stepped forward, smelled the food, and looked at him again. Then she grabbed the pack in her mouth and ran back into the trees. Milo smiled for the first time in days. He felt something warm inside. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know if it was smart or safe. But he knew one thing. Creature wanted to live, not to fight, not to harm Dot, and maybe, just maybe, she deserved that chance. Galactic aliens left their deadly Wolf and her cubs to die until a human had second thoughts. Milo returned the next morning. He had not slept much. His mind was full of questions. Why was the Velcaro Wolf still alive? Why hadn't she attacked? Why did she take the food but let him go? He didn't have answers. But he knew one thing. He wanted to see her again. He landed his scout pod near the same forest clearing and walked through the soft grass. The morning sun shined through the trees. Birds chirped above. The wind moved gently between the branches. Dot in his hand, Milo held another food pack. This time, he added a small bottle of clean water. Dot. He reached the same spot and placed the pack under the same tree. Then he stepped back and waited quietly. Time passed slowly, then soft rustling. From the bushes, Shira appeared. Her silver fur looked brighter in the sunlight. She walked with care, her eyes always alert. Behind her, the three cubs followed. They were bigger now, their legs stronger. Their ears perked up. Shira saw Milo. She stopped. The two stared at each other again, just like before. But this time, Milo did something different. He sat down on the ground. He didn't move, didn't speak, didn't reach for his scanner or weapon. He just sat and waited. Shira looked at him. Then, slowly, she walked forward and sniffed the food pack. She didn't take it this time. Instead, she lay down near it, her eyes still on the human. The cubs played nearby, rolling in the grass. Milo smiled. He didn't know what this moment meant. But he felt something, a quiet trust starting to grow. He returned the next day. And the day after, each time Shira was there. Each time, she let him get a little closer. He began to learn her ways. She was protective but calm. She didn't let the cubs come near him yet, but she didn't growl or run either. She watched him carefully, like a wild guardian trying to understand a strange creature, and Milo watched her too. She moved with strength, but also with pain. Her leg had a deep old cut, likely from a fight with a drone or machine. She limped slightly. Milo wanted to help, but he didn't know how. He didn't want to scare her. Back on the ship, Commander Lena grew suspicious. Milo, your reports are short. You sure Zone 4 is clean? Yes, Commander, Milo said. Just old ruins and broken gear, nothing dangerous. Lena narrowed her eyes. Then why are you spending so much time there? I think there may be some working Joran tech. I want to make sure. She nodded slowly. Fine, but don't get careless. These places may look dead, but they're not always empty. Milo nodded and left quickly. He didn't like lying, but he wasn't ready to tell the truth. Not yet. One afternoon, everything changed. Milo was walking to the clearing with a new food pack. As he reached the trees, he stopped suddenly. Shira wasn't lying down today. She was standing, growling, facing the trees on the other side of the clearing. Milo dropped low and looked where she was looking. A drone. It was floating just above the ground, round, black with flashing blue lights. One of the old Joran patrol machines, still running, still searching. It moved slowly, scanning the area. It hadn't seen Shira yet. Milo's heart beat fast. If the drone saw her, it would attack. That was its job, to remove hostile wildlife. And Shira, as a Velcaro Wolf, was marked as dangerous by Joran systems. He reached for the small MP device on his belt. It was meant for emergencies, to stop enemy tech. But if he used it, he would have to explain it to Lena. Still, he didn't hesitate. He stood up quickly and threw the imp toward the drone. Flash. A soft blue wave burst out. The drone froze in midair. Lights blinked, then went dark. It dropped to the ground with a soft thud. Milo ducked behind a tree, just in case. Shira stared at him. For the first time, she didn't just stare. She moved toward him slowly, carefully. The cubs followed behind. Milo didn't move. Shira came within a few feet and sat down. Her head tilted. She sniffed the air, then let out a low sound, not a growl, but not a bark either, a soft, wild sound. A sound of curiosity. One of the cubs came forward. Milo held his breath. The tiny creature sniffed his boot, then jumped back, then came close. Again, Milo smiled. This was not just trust. This was a beginning. That night, Milo wrote a message in his private log. I know I'm breaking rules. I know if Lena finds out, I'll be in trouble. But this creature Shira, she is not what we were told. She protects her young, she learns, she thinks, and maybe she forgives. I can't leave her, I won't. But he didn't know that soon others would come, others who wouldn't understand. Galactic aliens left their deadly Wolf and her cubs to die until a human had second thoughts. Milo stood in the clearing, still thinking about what had happened. Shira, the Velkara Wolf, had come close to him. She had let her cubs sniff his boot. The drone had been stopped just in time. He knew what he did was risky, but something inside him felt right. He looked at the old drone lying on the ground. Its lights were off, but the wreck could still send a signal back to orbit. Milo dragged the drone deep into the jungle and buried it under rocks and leaves. No one would find it now. Back on Explorer 17, Commander Lena paced inside the control room. Milo's zone has too much movement, she said to the ship engineer. Rika, our satellite shows energy spikes near an old research site. Maybe a broken power cell, Rika replied. Or a working drone. Maybe, Lena said, but her face was tight. Or maybe something else. She opened her radio and called Milo. Milo, report. He answered quickly. Yes, Commander, we're seeing movement. Confirm your area is secure. Milo paused. Yes, Commander, just wildlife and jungle heat, no threats. Lena's eyes narrowed. Very well, but stay sharp. I'll send a scan drone tomorrow. We can't miss anything dangerous. Malo's hand tightened around the radio. Understood. The line went silent. He knew the drone would find Shira, and once it saw her, the mission would change. She would be labeled a target again. He couldn't let that happen. That night, Milo made a choice. He would disable the scan drone before it reached the forest. It wasn't the right thing by Earth's rules, but it was the right thing by his heart. The next day, a silver scan drone launched from the ship and flew toward Zone 4. Milo was already on the ground, watching the sky. He knew where the drone would pass. He ran through the trees and waited on a tall hill with another EMP grenade. As the drone flew over, he tossed the device. Flash. The drone dropped into the trees, sparks flying from its side. Milo rushed to it and pulled out its battery chip. Without power, it couldn't report anything. He dragged it to a cave and hid it inside. Then he returned to the clearing. Shira was there, resting with her cubs. When she saw him, she stood up. Milo didn't come close. He just sat nearby and placed food on a flat stone. Shira walked over, took the food, and sat down again. There was peace in her eyes. And something else. Understanding. Milo spoke softly. Even though he knew she wouldn't understand his words. I'm trying, okay? I'm trying to keep you safe. But they'll find out. I don't know how much longer I can hide this. Shira tilted her head. One of her cubs walked near Milo and sniffed his hand. He smiled. Back on the ship, Commander Lena sat at her desk, frowning. This is the second drone lost in Zone 4, she said. First a patrol drone, now a scan drone. Rika looked worried. Could be interference. Or maybe the drones got damaged by weather. No, Lena said. This feels like someone's hiding something. She called all her crew to the main room. Tomorrow we go down ourselves, she said. I want boots on the ground. We'll check every building and every signal source. No more waiting. Milo sat quietly, hiding his thoughts. He had no more time. Early the next morning, Lena and 3 others flew down in a large ground ship. Milo went with them. They searched the ruins first. Broken towers, fallen walls, and rusted machines. Nothing special. But then, the scanners picked up signs of movement near the edge of the forest. Heat signatures, Rika said. 4 of them, not human, could be big animals, Lena nodded. Let's move. Milo's heart beat faster. Ran ahead of the others. Commander, let me scout first. I know this area better. Lena raised an eyebrow. Fine, but keep your radio on. Milo ran into the jungle. He reached the clearing and found Shira and her cubs resting under a tree. They saw him and stood up. Milo waved his hands. You have to go. Now, others are coming. Shira looked at him, then at the trees. She could feel it too. Danger, she growled at her cubs. They followed her into the deeper jungle, disappearing into the green. Milo sighed with relief. They were safe for now. Moments later, Lena and the team arrived. Nothing here, Milo said. Just broken machines and plants. Lena looked around carefully. She walked to the food stone and bent down. There were scratch marks. Wolf prints. She stood up slowly. Milo, you've been feeding something. Milo didn't answer. Lena's voice grew sharper. What did you find here? A Joran weapon? A living creature? Milo looked into her eyes. I found the mother. He said, and 3 cubs. She's not hurting anyone. She just wants to live. You broke orders, Lena said. You disabled drones. You risked the mission. I saved lives, Milo said. Isn't that part of our job too? Lena was quiet. In the trees, far away, Shira watched them. Her eyes calm. Her cubs beside her. Galactic aliens left their deadly wolf and her cubs to die until a human had second thoughts. The jungle of Ravax was quiet. Too quiet. Birds that once sang had flown away. The wind no longer danced between the trees. Even the insects seemed to hide. Something strange had entered the forest, something the wild world could feel. Shira raised her head and sniffed the air. Something was coming. She growled low and stood up. Her cubs, who had been playing nearby, ran to her side. She looked up. At the sky, there were lights in the clouds. Faint at first, then brighter cold blue lights that didn't belong in the jungle. Above, a Joran warpod entered the atmosphere. It was round, black, and moved like a silent shadow. It had returned to Ravax to collect anything left behind, including weapons, machines, or creatures. Shira was on that list. Inside the pod, old Joran drones powered on. Their mission was simple: remove failed assets, clean the area, erase all records. The Velkara Wolf was marked as dangerous property that should have been destroyed long ago. Now, they had returned to finish the job. Milo was inside his scout pod, checking maps when the warning appeared on his screen. Unregistered ship detected in Zone 4 airspace. Possible Joran design, high threat level. His heart dropped. He grabbed his radio. Commander Lena. A Joran ship just entered the jungle. I see it, Lena replied. Stay inside the pod. Do not engage. But Milo had no time. He ran outside, jumping through thick vines and muddy paths. He knew exactly where the drones would go. He knew where Shira and her cubs were hiding. Deep in the jungle, the Joran warpod opened its hatch. 3 black drones flew out, scanning the ground below. Their sensors picked up heat 4 life forms. Moving under the trees, target locked, they moved fast, slicing through leaves and branches, red beams blinking in their metal eyes. Shira ran. She didn't try to fight at first. She knew she was outmatched. She led her cubs through the thickest parts of the jungle, jumping over logs, sliding under roots, her injured legs slowing her down. One drone fired a stun beam. It hit the ground near her, burning the grass. The cubs cried out, but kept running. They trusted their mother. She never stopped moving, but she couldn't outrun them forever. Milo reached the clearing just as the drones closed in. He saw Shira leap across a fallen tree, one cub in her mouth, the other two right behind her. A drone was just meters away. Without thinking, Milo grabbed his pulse blaster and fired at the drone's engine. Boom! The drone exploded in a flash of sparks and smoke. The force knocked Shira off her feet. She rolled into the mud. Breathing hard, Milo ran to her side. Another drone turned toward him. He pulled out his MP device, threw it fast and hit. The drone dropped like a stone, but the third drone flew higher. Scanning again. This one was smarter. It sent a signal back to the war-pod. New orders. Destroy all active targets. Commander. Lena heard the signal from the ship. The drones are attacking, she shouted. Something down there triggered full assault mode. Rika looked at her in shock. We have to pull Milo out. No, Lena said quickly. Send down backup. Send medkits. And bring the defense shield. We're protecting whatever's down there. Rika blinked. Even the Wolf? Lena nodded. Yes, Milo's right. She's not the enemy. In the jungle, Milo stood between Shira and the last drone. It charged its weapons. Milo spread his arms wide. You'll have to go through me. Shira, still weak, growled low behind him. The drone flew closer. Suddenly a loud roar. Shira leaped forward, faster than before, and slammed into the drone with all her strength. Her teeth tore into its wires. Sparks flew. The drone spun wildly before crashing into the trees. She limped back, bleeding. Milo caught her before she fell. The cubs came to her side, nuzzling her face. Milo pulled out a bandage and water bottle. Stay with me, girl. Help is coming. For the first time, Shira didn't flinch when he touched her. She trusted him completely. Minutes later, Lena and her team arrived with medkits and a portable shield. They surrounded the area with a glowing energy wall that blocked any more attacks. Lena looked at Shira, injured but alive, and then at the cubs. She fought to save him. Rika said softly. She protected her young, Lena added. And him, too. They all stood in silence. Milo spoke. She's not a weapon. She's a mother, and she never gave up even when left to die. Lena nodded. Then we're not leaving her behind either. That night, under the stars, Shira lay beside her cubs in a warm shelter made by humans. Milo sat nearby, watching over them. The jungle was quiet again, but this time, it was peaceful. Shira's eyes slowly closed, and her breathing grew calm. She had survived the machines, the war, and the fear, not because of luck, but because a human had second thoughts. Galactic aliens left their deadly Wolf and her cubs to die, until a human had second thoughts. Shira rested inside the shelter built by the human team. The soft floor, made of warm mats, felt strange under her paws, but safe. Her cubs curled beside her, sleeping peacefully. Their small bodies moved gently with each breath. Outside, the jungle was quiet. Milo sat near the entrance, his eyes never leaving her. She had saved his life. She could have run. She could have escaped into the trees. But she had fought for her cubs. And for him. Now she was hurt, her side bandaged, her legs stiff. But she was alive. Commander Lena stepped into the shelter. She looked at Shira, then at Milo. She's strong, Lena said. Milo nodded. She's more than strong. She's something special. Lena sighed and crossed her arms. The ship from Earth received our emergency message. They're sending a council to review the situation. Milo looked up. What kind of council? A legal team, some scientists, maybe a few officers. They'll decide what to do with her. You mean whether she lives or dies, Milo said quietly. Lena didn't answer. But her silence said enough. The next morning, a large transport ship arrived from Earth. It hovered above the forest before landing in a clearing nearby. Out stepped 4 people. Their uniforms were clean, their boots shiny. One was a tall man with gray hair, Counselor Breen. He held a tablet and didn't smile. He spoke with a flat voice. So this is the Velcro Wolf the Joran left behind. Malo stood in front of the shelter. Her name is Shira, and she's not just a wolf. Breen raised one eyebrow. I read your report. Feeding a dangerous alien creature. Hiding it from your commander. Disabling Earth drones. You broke several rules. I did, Milo said. But I saved lives, hers, her cubs, and mine. The counselor walked past him and stood at the shelter's entrance. Shira lifted her head. She didn't growl, but she didn't look away either. She doesn't seem violent, one of the scientists said. She isn't, Milo replied. She only fights when she must. She protected her cubs from your machines. She protected me from your drones. Breen tapped on his tablet. The Joran marked this species as uncontrollable and dangerous. That's why they left her. They were wrong, Milo said firmly. They made her a weapon. But she chose to become something else. The scientist stepped inside carefully. Shira watched him but stayed calm. He scanned her with a quiet device. Her brain shows signs of emotional memory, he said, and complex learning. She's more than instinct. She remembers, Breen sighed. That doesn't mean we can keep her. Earth has laws about alien species. What if she escapes? What if the cubs grow violent? She won't, Milo said. They won't. Breen shook his head. It's not your decision. That night, Milo sat alone near the shelter. He looked up at the stars, wondering what Earth would choose. Would they protect Shira? Or would they treat her like a machine, like the Joran did? Lena joined him, holding two warm cups. She gave one to Milo. You fought hard for her, she said. She fought harder for me, Milo replied. Lena looked at the stars. Counselor Breen asked me something. He wanted to know what I would do if I were in charge. What did you say? I said ... I'd choose life, Lena said. Because if we're out here exploring the stars, then we must stand for something better than fear. The next morning, the council returned. They stood before the team, before Shira, before Milo. Counselor Breen cleared his throat. We have made a decision. Milo held his breath. The Velcro Wolf and her cubs will not be destroyed, Breen sighed. They will be moved to a protected habitat on the moon base. There, Earth scientists will study them but not harm them. The cubs will be raised in safety. Milo's eyes lit up. Thank you. But understand this, Breen said. This is not a reward. This is a test. If they show signs of danger, the program will be shut down. They won't, Milo sighed. You'll see, Breen nodded. You'll go with them. You know them best. Help us understand. I will. Days later, a soft transport capsule carried Shira and her cubs away from Ravax. The jungle slowly disappeared below them. For the first time in her life, Shira left her wild home behind. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She sat still, her cubs curled against her, her eyes calm. Beside her sat Milo. He placed his hand near her paw, not touching, just close. You're safe now, he whispered. No more running. Shira didn't speak. But in her own quiet way, she understood. She had been left to die. But now, because of a human who cared. She had a future. The lactic aliens left their deadly wolf and her cubs to die until a human had second thoughts. The moon base was not like Ravax. There were no tall trees, no soft mud, no birds singing in the wind. The ground was gray and dusty. The sky was always dark, filled with stars. But inside the base, everything was bright, clean, and safe. Shira and her cubs had been given a large enclosed habitat. It was made with rock, soil, plants, and even small streams to remind them of the jungle. Earth scientists had tried their best to make it feel like home. Shira walked slowly across the new land. Her cubs, now stronger and braver, ran ahead, chasing one another between the trees and climbing rocks. Shira's limp had improved. Her wounds had healed. She was no longer just surviving. Now, she was living. Milo stood behind the observation window, watching them with quiet pride. He had spent the last 2 weeks helping the scientists understand Shira's behavior. Every day, he entered the habitat to feed her, to sit near her, to let her cubs play around him. Shira never growled. She knew him. She remembered. One day, as Milo sat on a rock inside the habitat, one of the cubs, now bigger than before, came and lay down beside him. Its fur brushed his boot. Milo smiled and gently reached out. The cub didn't pull away. Shira watched from a distance, her eyes calm. It was a moment of trust. Outside the habitat, many people had started talking about Shira. Some scientists called her a miracle. Others called her a danger in disguise. The Galactic Council had sent a new team to visit the moon base and check the progress. News spread fast. Some people on Earth feared the idea of keeping a Joran-made predator alive. Others were inspired by her story, by the fact that a deadly alien creature had shown mercy, love, and memory. A message arrived from Earth's High Council. A full hearing will be held in 10 days. The future of the Velkara species will be decided. Earth citizens will watch. They deserve to know what we protect. Milo knew this would be the final test. The hearing room on the moon base was large and filled with lights, screens, and voices. Scientists, officers, and reporters sat in their seats. Cameras streamed the event to millions of people back on Earth. Commander Lena sat in the front row. Counselor Breen stood at the center, speaking to the audience. The Joran created the Velkara wolf to be a weapon. But today we must ask, did they create a monster, or did they awaken something more? He turned to Milo. Tell us what you saw. Milo walked to the front, took a breath, and looked around. I saw a mother left to die. I saw her care for her cubs with love. I saw her trust a stranger, even after being hurt. And I saw her protect that stranger with her life. He showed photos, Shira fighting the drone, the cubs sitting beside him, Shira licking her injured paw near the human camp. This is not just about one wolf. This is about who we are. Do we destroy what we fear? Or do we protect what we come to understand? The room was quiet. Counselor Breen looked at the crowd. We will vote. But remember, this story began with one human's second thoughts. 1. Choice to show kindness. Now the choice is ours. The vote was sent to Earth. In 2 hours the results came in. The screen flashed, decision approved. The Velkara species is now protected under Earth law. Status, sentient wildlife, no harm, no capture, no weapon use. Milo let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Commander Lena stood and clapped. Others followed. The room filled with quiet applause. For the first time, Shira's kind had been given a future. Over the next few months, the moon habitat expanded. More green areas were added. The cubs grew fast. They learned to hunt small moving machines, to follow commands, and to listen to certain sounds. They were wild, yes, but they were learning. Earth sent teachers, animal experts, and linguists to study them. Some believed the Velkara wolves could become the first alien species to form a peaceful bond with humans. Milo became known as the Wolf Whisperer. Children on Earth read about him in school. His story was shared across planets. But for Milo, the reward was simpler. Every evening, he walked into the habitat and sat under a large artificial tree. Shira would appear, her cubs behind her, and sit across from him. They would share the silence, and sometimes one of the cubs would place its paw gently in his lap, not because of food, not because of orders, but because they trusted him. One night, as Milo lay looking at the stars through the glass ceiling, Lena came to sit beside him. You changed things, she said. No, Milo replied. She did. I just gave her a chance, Lena smiled. It was enough. They sat in silence for a moment. Do you think they'll ever return to the wild? She asked. Milo looked at the sleeping cubs. Double quotes, yes, but not as monsters, not as weapons, as part of something better. He looked at the stars again. Maybe that's what makes us human, not how strong we are, but how we choose to protect what others leave behind. And so, on a moon far from Earth, in a home built from hope and second chances, a deadly alien wolf once left to die became a symbol of life.